Welcome to the SGU NU Keith B. Taylor Global Scholars Programme Virtual White Coat Ceremony. The tradition began in 1993 when the Arnold P. Gold Foundation created the White Coat Ceremony at Columbia University's College of Physicians and Surgeons to promote humanism in medicine. With guidance from the Gold Foundation, St. George's University School of Medicine initiated its own White Coat Ceremony in 1996, long before many other US medical schools. In 2003, the Gold Foundation founded the Gold Humanism Honor Society, widely known as GHHS, an international society dedicated to the promotion of humanism, professionalism, and ethics in medical practice and education. Dr. Gold was an international advocate for humanism in healthcare. We are honoured to have hosted Dr. Gold and his wife Sandra as keynote speakers for our Spring 2005 White Coat Ceremony. SGU's chapter of GHHS is based in the Bioethics Division of the Department of Clinical Skills and supported by the Dean of Medicine's office. Our chapter established the Humanitarian Student Organisation, HSO, in 2009, through which basic sciences students promote humanism across the SGU and Grenadian communities. Chapter members are nominated by their peers and inducted during their clinical training when they participate in an ongoing chapter project. We now welcome Professor Diane Ford, Pro-Vice-Chancellor for the Faculty of Health and Life Sciences of Northumbria University.
Warmest of greetings to all of you St. George's University students who've recently joined the programme to begin your studies at Northumbria University, and also to any family or friends watching this. I'm Professor Diane Ford. I am Pro-Vice-Chancellor for the Faculty of Health and Life Sciences here at Northumbria University. And I'm really honoured to be able to make this short contribution to your virtual White Coat Ceremony. And I'm absolutely delighted that you've chosen to join us at Northumbria University to begin this exciting, challenging career in medicine that you've chosen. I've already had the opportunity to speak to those of you who were able to attend the welcome session held right at the beginning of your induction week, either in August or January. And there I told you a little about the Faculty of Health and Life Sciences. And I'll take this opportunity to say a little more about some of the work we do, of which we're particularly proud. So high quality international research with real impact for society lies right at the heart of this university's mission and strategy. And the Faculty of Health and Life Sciences, alongside providing an excellent educational experience for all of our students that equips them for lifelong success and development in their chosen career, makes a huge contribution to the university's excellent research as well. I'll mention just a few examples of our research and teaching impact. So our research in allied health professions and nursing, and also in psychology, in social work and social policy, and in sport and exercise science, was rated in the last UK assessment of research excellence, the Research Excellence Framework, which was in 2014, as being world-leading or internationally excellent. Now we're just preparing for the next cycle of this Research Excellence Framework, and we're highly confident that we will exceed comfortably the success of the previous exercise. So our research continues to go from strength to strength in the faculty. We've a vibrant partnership here with the International Centre for Life in Newcastle. And this is the way that we really can showcase our research to the public. This brings science and research to life for the public, and it delivers huge benefits to our students and staff through various exhibitions, placements, and other knowledge exchange activity. We're held in really high esteem regionally, nationally, and indeed internationally for our nurse education, and we've won many accolades in this area. And we have partnerships with leading national, international, public sector organisations and with industry. And these are really absolutely at the heart of how the faculty operates in both our research and our teaching. These include the famous UK National Health Service, global companies such as GlaxoSmithKline, Procter & Gamble, Kellogg's, and also numerous other impactful bodies such as the European Space Agency. We do a lot of work with them. The English Institute for Sport as well. And of course, one of our very most important partnerships is with St. George's University. And this partnership now comes into its 14th year. So, students, you're at the beginning of what I'm sure will be a really rewarding and also challenging new phase in your lives. And we really hope that your experience at Northumbria University is life-changing, memorable, and also enjoyable, albeit that your time with us is marked by this global pandemic situation that's requiring us all to adapt to working and doing things differently in so many ways. The pandemic, though, really does shine the brightest of lights on the enormous importance of the profession that you join, medics alongside other healthcare professionals, and the importance of working in this area on a truly global platform. And you're enriching your career and yourselves to be such an important part of global working by electing to add this international experience at Northumbria to your medical education right at the beginning. So your practice will make you so important to the lives of so many people throughout the world in years to come. I have every confidence that having chosen to follow this path that you're now on, you'll handle all of the challenges it'll present you with great sensitivity, care, compassion, and importantly, you'll embrace all the fantastic opportunities with enthusiasm and drive great fulfillment and reward. So I wish you all the very greatest success in your programme and, of course, in your future medical careers.
We now welcome Professor John Reist, Pro-Vice-Chancellor International of Northumbria University.
Distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, new students. Although current circumstances determine that I cannot be with you in person, as Pro-Vice-Chancellor of Northumbria University, I'm delighted to welcome you all in this virtual manner to Northumbria University. At a time when the eyes of the world are focused firmly on the efforts of our frontline medics, this is a very special occasion as we recognise the beginning of your learning journey to become qualified medical doctors. This is now the 14th year we have welcomed students from St. George's University School of Medicine. And since 2007, we've received almost 2,000 students onto the year one of the MD Basic Medical Science programme, all of whom, like you, have chosen to make the care and well-being of others their purpose in life. Such a choice brings great responsibilities. And as we have sadly seen over the last 12 months, you can expect to face some significant challenges. You'll begin your training in the full knowledge of the extreme pressures you may face in your career. But I'm confident, however, that this will bring you great strength and resolve. And I'm sure that the knowledge that people and societies will benefit from your care will bring immense personal satisfaction and great professional fulfillment. We hope that your time at Northumbria University will help you to develop new understandings of cultures and societies, which in turn will contribute to the development of the qualities that are so important to the physician and surgeon. And what of this university? Well, Northumbria is a research-rich, business-focused professional university. Academic excellence and student experience sit firmly at the heart of what we do, and you are studying at a university with an ambitious vision for the future. Northumbria is now a top 30 UK university. We are the top-ranked UK university in the Times Higher Education's Young Universities World Rankings, and Times Higher Education also rates our clinical, preclinical and health subjects within the top 300 provided by any university in the world. We're ranked in the UK top 50 for research power, and following the UK government's Research Excellence Framework 2014, demonstrated the largest rise across UK universities in research rated as world-leading and internationally excellent. These successes mark a major step change for Northumbria, positioning the university decisively as one of the fastest rising institutions in the UK higher education sector, while creating a broad and robust platform for the next phase of our development in research. Our ambition is to be a university with a global reputation for academic excellence that provides an outstanding student experience and graduate employment prospects. Our partnership with St George's University is a clear example of this global perspective. Students like you who will study in multiple locations and benefit from exposure to a range of healthcare settings and systems are a true representation of all aspects of our vision. Thanks to the ongoing success of our relationship, students are now able to study the first 2 or 3 years of the SGU 5 and 6 year medical degree programmes here at Northumbria. Northumbria values its partnership with St George's very highly indeed, and it's through this partnership and partnerships like this that both universities can develop and thrive, realise their institutional visions and offer many students a truly global experience of studying and training in the medical profession. You are at the beginning of a great learning journey. My hope is that your experience as a student on this programme will be both life-changing and exhilarating. I wish you every success in your study with Northumbria and St George's Universities and in your future medical careers. I now introduce Dr. Marios Loukas, Dean, School of Medicine for St George's University. Thank you.
Welcome and congratulations for your acceptance at St George's University. I'm Dr. Marios Loukas and I'm the Dean of School of Medicine. The faculty and I in Grenada, we are looking forward for your arrival to the island in the coming terms. Let's reflect on a few of the principles of the oath you will affirm upon graduation from this institution, but also the professionalism commitment during your white coat ceremony. At the heart of the oath and professionalism commitment is a resolve to treat the sick to the best of your ability, to preserve patient privacy, and to safeguard life. It is also calls to mind the responsibility to share your wisdom with others. Recognize that in entering the field of medicine, you join a community where the team is of utmost importance to success as compared to individual effort. To this end, you must strive for excellence in your pursuit of knowledge. As you don this white physician coat, you pledge an oath of professionalism and service. While these values are under attack, they're a necessary requirement in medical practice. Professionalism is a commitment to integrity, altruism, competence, and ethics in the service of others. A physician must constantly balance the needs of his patients and society against the available resources and his own interests. We must endeavor to honor the sacred trust and privilege that society places in medical professionals, cognizant that the standard is an ideal that we must continuously aim to achieve. I welcome you to the noble profession of medicine. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Richard Olds, a good friend and our keynote speaker. Dr. Olds is an educator, physician, and an administrator during a distinguished career spanning more than 30 years. Dr. Olds became president of St. George's University in Grenada on August 28, 2015. Prior to joining SGU, he was the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs and the founding Dean of the School of Medicine at the University of California, Riverside. In 2010, Dr. Olds joined University of California, Riverside to lead the creation of the new School of Medicine, the first LCME-accredited medical school in California in more than 4 decades. Dr. Olds is a graduate of Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine and trained in internal medicine at the Mass General Hospital in Boston. He was an infectious disease fellow and one of the nation's first geographic medicine fellows at University Hospitals of Cleveland, where he also served as medical chief resident and faculty member. He served as a full professor of medicine, pediatrics, molecular cell and developmental biology at Brown University. He was professor and chairman of medicine at the Metro Health campus of Case Western Reserve University. His role at the University of California, Riverside was preceded by a decade-long stint as professor and chair of medicine at Medical College of Wisconsin. In addition to his academic background, Dr. Olds is a tropical disease specialist with extensive experience working in Asia and Africa. He has over 100 peer-reviewed articles and book chapters primarily on international health topics. He currently serves on World Health Organization expert panel and was chairman of the board of a large Gates Foundation project to deworm children in sub-Saharan Africa. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Richard Olds.
Welcome. I'm Dr. Richard Olds, president of St. George's University, and it's my pleasure to be your keynote speaker for the White Coat Ceremony today. I'm talking to you from northern Vermont, and I think all of you are probably scattered all over the world, and I look forward to the opportunity when we can all get together. In addition to being president of St. George's, I also teach in both the medical school and the veterinary school. And for over 40 years, I've trained young physicians like yourselves to be better physicians. Well, let me start with some bad news. When you put on that white coat today, you're not going to know one bit more of medicine, and you're not going to know any more basic science or anything more about how to cure patients of disease. But when you put on that white coat, you do assume the responsibility to being a thoughtful and caring physician. You must take on the mantle of professionalism associated with our profession, even if you don't know anything more than you do today. When you think about it, society imparts tremendous opportunities and privileges to those of us in the medical profession. We are allowed to examine the bodies of our patients. They tell us the most intimate details about things that they don't share with anyone else. And we are often with them in some of their most vulnerable and difficult times in their lives. In return for that rare privilege, we are expected to always behave in our patient's best interest, to be thoughtful, to be caring, to be what you would want as your physician. Well, the white coat ceremony is symbolic of that activity. But interestingly, the white coat has not always been associated with physicians. In the 17th and 1800s, physicians wore black frocked coats. It really wasn't until the end of the 19th century that physicians became associated with the color white. That really came from twin forces. Pasteur and the understanding of the germ theory of disease led to white for sterility and cleanliness. And on the other hand, the marriage between modern medical science and the medical profession evolved. And if you will, the laboratory coat became the physician's white coat. So for virtually the entire 20th century, white coats were synonymous with physicians. But interestingly, it wasn't until the 1990s that the white coat ceremony became part of your training. Done first by Columbia University in their medical school, now a white coat ceremony is virtually universal in almost all of the healthcare professions. Well, why is that? Why did people late basically feel that we needed something special to commemorate the beginning of your professional training? Well, perhaps one clue comes from an interesting survey that was done in 1950 of the most admired professions in the United States. In that year of 1950, the three most admired professions were doctors, clergies, and teachers. Interestingly, when that survey was repeated in 2000, the three most admired professions were clergy, teachers, and nurses. Physicians were no longer in that top tier. Now, I'll grant you, we didn't fall all the way to the lawyers and used car salesmen, but we fell substantially in that list. The American public in this case no longer held us in the same esteem as we had enjoyed 50 years before. And there was concern that that was driven not by our lack of medical knowledge, which was considerably greater in 2000 than 1950, but by a deterioration in our professional behavior and our caring and thoughtfulness in the interaction with our patients. Thus, the white coat ceremony to reinforce at the very beginning of your medical training the importance of that aspect of professionalism. Now, interestingly, we have an opportunity through this terrible pandemic of COVID to reestablish what's important in physicians. And that's really driven by two aspects of the COVID pandemic. The first is personal risk. Especially before physicians were able to be vaccinated, all healthcare workers ended up working long hours in conditions that put them at risk to acquire COVID. And yes, some nurses and physicians died as a result of that commitment. The second was an unfortunate aspect of the transmission of this disease. In order to protect family and loved ones from acquiring the disease themselves, patients were often left completely isolated, often in environments like intensive care units, where the only contact with humans basically were the doctors and nurses that cared for those patients. And increasingly, we took on that responsibility, not just to care for them, but to talk to them, to hold their hand, to be, if you will, surrogate loved ones. And because of that, that was a new opportunity for all healthcare professionals to be appreciated by greater society. Now, there's only a few times in our past history where similar circumstances have occurred. Probably the first was during the Dark Ages, during the bubonic plague, where physicians and other healthcare professionals risked getting plague themselves in order to care for the dead and dying. And because of the fear that everyone had of acquiring plague from those plague victims, they were largely left alone in their time of greatest need. During the 19th century, with the large tuberculosis, so-called White Death of the 19th century, many physicians actually acquired tuberculosis as part of their care of patients with consumption. In my own personal history, I'm reminded of the early AIDS epidemic. I'm an infectious disease specialist. In the 1970s, I was often assigned to care for these patients, usually young men that were admitted with this strange disease. At the time, we had no idea what caused the disease. We certainly had no treatment, and they had a life expectancy usually measured in weeks and months. There wasn't much that we could do from a medical standpoint to treat them besides keeping them comfortable and attempting to treat some of their opportunistic infections. But the one thing I can always remember is I could be there to talk to them, to hold their hand, and to comfort them at the end. Well, the COVID pandemic has given us again that opportunity. And we, I think, as professionals, have risen to that occasion. Now, if you doubt that new responsibility and appreciation, I ask you to remember where across the world on designated times, people came out of quarantine onto their windowsills, onto their porches, and applauded those in the healthcare profession. Probably the greatest testament to how a society appreciates those of us on the front lines. Now, I'd like to end my story with my talk with a personal story to talk a bit more about the meaning of that white coat. Many years ago, I was the chairman of the Department of Medicine at the Medical College of Wisconsin, and during that time, I did a lot of inpatient attending, either at the university hospital or at our affiliated Veterans Hospital. And this story takes place in July of that year, and July was always the time that I wanted to be in attending because the house staff were brand new, and the third-year medical students, this was their first rotation. Now, I had attended fairly frequently at the VA, and I got to know a lot of their patients that were recurrently coming in and out of the hospital. And one of them was Mr. Anderson. Now, Mr. Anderson was a retired dairy farmer from northern Wisconsin, and he had served in the Vietnam War. Now, Mr. Anderson had a tough final years, a few years of his life. His wife had died before he had. He had been diagnosed with leukemia and had to go through several rounds of very difficult chemotherapy. And probably worst of all, is he suffered a massive stroke that required him to leave his dairy farm and move in with his daughter, who lived in the greater Milwaukee area. He was bedbound, and as a result, was frequently admitted to the hospital with various opportunistic infections, urinary tract infections, pneumonias, etc. And so I got to know Mr. Anderson and his family quite well during my time of attending. Well, in this first week of July, Mr. Anderson again came to the VA and was admitted to my service since I had known him previously. and I assigned a brand new medical student, Bill, to his case. Now, I assigned Bill in part because I knew he was from the dairy farming area of northern Wisconsin, and I thought they might have something in common. And in fact, it turned out to be the case. I would often come by on rounds, and Bill would be in there talking to Mr. Anderson about trout fishing and about life on a dairy farm. And Bill would often ask him about the Vietnam War, something that he knew very little about. Well, after several days, we got Mr. Anderson over his urinary tract infection, and he was discharged home. But true to form, he was readmitted several times during that month for other problems, and Bill again took care of him during that time, and we tuned him up a bit, and he returned home. Now, at the end of the month, I rotated off that service, and I actually had to go away to a medical conference, and when I got back, my secretary gave me a phone message from Mr. Anderson's daughter. I called her up, and she told me that during the time I was gone that Mr. Anderson had passed away, and I told her I was sorry that I wasn't able to be there for her and the family at the end. But she told me an interesting story. She said that her father was a deeply religious man, and he had wondered for many months why God had punished him so. His wife had died. He had become very, very ill and suffered through that treatment. And most disturbing to him was when he had his massive stroke that required him to leave his beloved dairy farm and be an invalid and live in the big city. And he couldn't understand why God did that to him. And she told me just a few days before Mr. Anderson passed, he talked to her and he said, I finally realized what God's message was for me. He wanted me to live for a few more months so I could help Bill be a better doctor. That is the meaning of that white coat. You will learn from your faculty a lot of medical facts, how the body works, how it breaks down in disease. You will learn about how to diagnose difficult illnesses and how to treat them, what the latest treatment is. But if you're open to it, you'll learn how to be a better doctor, largely from your patients. So as you don your white coat today, welcome to the noble profession of medicine. Thank you and God bless.
We would now like to introduce our white coat recipients. The white coat serves as a symbol of your entry to the profession and your commitment to uphold the duties and trust associated with medicine and medical training. now welcome Dr. Alina Wade, Clinical Instructor, Anatomical Sciences, and Assistant Dean of Students of St. George's University, to lead our White Coat recipients in reciting aloud the professional commitment. This commitment was written by a student task force in 1995 and has been recited at each of our School of Medicine White Coat ceremonies.
Hello, I'm Dr. Alina Wade, and I'll be leading you through your professional commitment, so please read along with me. I welcome any physicians viewing to join in. Today is the beginning of my medical education and training as a physician. I acknowledge my responsibility to continue the pursuit of knowledge and understanding until that day when I will cease to be a practicing physician. I am entering training for a noble profession in which my interest must always be subservient to those who may seek my assistance. I must be ever conscious of the value of my fellow health professionals and treat them with respect at all times. My classmates at St. George's University are now my colleagues, and I owe to them the same support and encouragement to achieve their goals as I hope to receive from them. I will work alongside my colleagues and professors with tolerance, compassion, and honesty. I acknowledge my obligation to adhere to the University Honour Code and to conduct myself with integrity and in an ethical manner at all times henceforth. I shall do all within my power to show in myself an example of all that is honourable and good throughout my medical career. It is a privilege to have been given the opportunity to become a physician. May I be ever conscious of that privilege and never abuse it. Congratulations to each of you, and I look forward to meeting you in the upcoming terms. Thank you for allowing me to participate.
As we draw to a close, we would like to thank the Arnold P. Gold Foundation for the Humanism in Medicine pins placed on each student's white coat. Students, families, St. George's and Northumbria University faculty, staff, and administrators, thank you for your support and presence at this ceremony. We would also like to say a special thank you to all our inspiring speakers, including Dr. G. Richard Olds, our keynote speaker, whose message was truly inspirational to us all. Thank you for joining us for this White Coat ceremony.